I thought today would be a good day to go for a walk and talk about gear that we never use. If you're anything like me, which you probably are if you're watching this, you got three types of gear. Gear that you take with you all the time, gear that is a little specialized and you bring with you when you need it, and gear you bought because it was freaking cool, but it stays in your closet. A few videos ago, I mentioned one of my rules is to never buy any gear unless it solves a specific problem. And the next items that I have that I'm going to show you are actually pieces of gear that I did not follow that rule on. First one, I actually bought under the recommendation of, and it's a perfectly good product. It works, it's fantastic. It is the Tocs siphon alcohol stove and windscreen. This is only 3 of the 4 pieces, but this sits on here, your pot sits on top, and it works perfectly well. And the reason that I don't use it is probably pretty petty. When I nest this into my pot, I have not found a way to put the alcohol into the pot, my fuel. I have not found a way to nest the fuel in the pot. So I just don't use the product. I find my MSR Pocket Rocket nests better with the isobutane, so I use that instead. It's probably the most petty reason not to use something, and I expect the internet to tell me how foolish I am, but I still don't use it. The next item that I bought that I never use is the Firebox Titanium Nano. It's a twig stove. It's a very cool product. I just never use it because, again, it doesn't nest into anything for cooking. It's a twig stove. You can fit an alcohol stove into it and use it as a windscreen and stand. I burned it a few times just using it here and there, and it's a fantastic product. I just don't use it because I don't feel the need to. I have other products that do the same thing more conveniently and more compactly in my kit. So I love this product, but I don't use it. And it's one of the reasons I don't buy gear that doesn't meet a specific need anymore. It's helped me figure out that rule. But if the zombie apocalypse were to happen, I guarantee you this would be my stove of choice because fuel is everywhere and it's quiet, it's nice, it's handy, it's compact. And if I couldn't get a hold of any gas or any fuel for alcohol stove, I would use this in a heartbeat. So it's more of a survivalist thing than a backpacking thing. It's kind of a crossover, and I just don't use it. The last thing that I don't use very often, or at all, it's only been out once, I actually have to set up to show you. This is the Rhino Wolf 2.0, a single pole freestanding tent that can be attached to other Rhino Wolves. One of the cool things about this tent is that it actually has a quilt and sleeping pad system built into it. So if you see here, the quilt actually zips on around the sleeping pad, and the tent can be taken apart or taken down and put back up with the sleeping pad deflated and the quilt zipped in. There's lots of headroom, but there's very little ventilation. There's a vent at the bottom and at the top, and then there's vents in the vestibules, you can see there. But those vents don't allow for much airflow. The only time this tent has ever been out, I lent it to someone, and we got snowed on overnight in July, and they got soaked. The condensation was brutal, and yeah, that's the only time this has ever been out. The poles actually have the pegs integrated into them, so the pole, single pole comes down, there's a branch on the bottom, and inside each one of these is a peg. It's kind of cool, but altogether weighs about 7 pounds, which is not bad for your tent, your sleeping pad, and your quilt. But I never use it. I bought 2 of them. Am I an idiot for buying these things? Or am I an idiot for not using these things? You tell me.